Polel Polal Hithpolel. This is our first series here, and of all the ones that replace Polel Polal Hithpolel, this is the most important. So we start with this, and then we'll show comparisons to these three. Now, what are these? Well, these are binyanim that are formed from hollow verbs and some geminates. And what happens is, in the hollow verbs, you do not double the middle radical. So if you have something like kum, okay, to rise, and you want to make a PL, well, a PL, a pual, or a hitpile, any of those three, the key feature there is you double the second radical. But the second radical here is a vowel. Remember, this is that semivowel, that mater. And so, in fact, it doesn't double. So what they do instead is, instead of doubling the second radical, you reduplicate the third radical. So you have ku, and reduplicate means you're going to double it, but you're going to include a vowel. It's not just putting a dagesh forte in there. And what actually happens in this case is you get tsere. I'll show you the forms next page. But what's happening here is that instead of doubling this for Polel Polal Hithpolel, in this case PL, then you double this, or reduplicate it, because you include the vowel. Now, these are reasonably frequent. For the PL, you have the Polel. That corresponds to PL. 178 occurrences of those in the Hebrew Bible. And these names, by the way, they follow the form. They reflect the form, just like these do. So PL, you can tell that the theme vowel is a tsere, or an I vowel anyway. Poel, same theme vowel, okay? But the beginning is different. You've got that O or U or whatever. Polel Polal, only 12 of those. Hithpolel Hithpolel, 114 of those. Okay, let's look at the forms. Here I've got them in 3 columns with select forms. So Polel, Polal, and Hithpolel. So this would correspond to PL, this to Pual, and this to Hithpolel. Okay? So again, we cannot double the second radical for these hollow verbs, and so we reduplicate the last one. So instead of having 2 vowels, we end up with 2 maims, and there's a vowel between. And the theme vowel tsere is similar, or the same, as what we have for PL. So there is an overlap with PL. And here, instead of pual, we have polal, and again, the theme vowel overlaps with polal, which has that A theme vowel. The beginning is the same, though. Notice these two here. So the only distinction between polel and polal is the theme vowel. Now, if we move down here, we add vocalic suffixes for the 3FS form, and our theme vowel reduces. And so if the only distinction between these two is the theme vowel, and it reduces, then you've lost your distinction. So you have komma and komma. No difference. And in the second person, you get that second person switch that also happens in the PL, where your theme vowel reduces. In this case, it doesn't reduce to a shava, but to a patach. And this already has a patach, so it stays. So you end up with the same form again. So with suffixes of any sort, vocalic or consonantal, the theme vowel is made the same. It's either reduced completely to shava, or it is turned into a patach. So you lose your distinction when you have verbal endings. So komamta, komamta, same thing. If we move down to the imperfect, the first thing we should notice is we have a vocal shava as a prefix vowel, which is nice. That's just like the PL and the pual, right? Remember, that was a major pointer, major marker of the PL and pual. Well, it's here as well, in the polel and the polal, which is good because these relate to PL and pual. Our vav is staying because we can't double that. We can't double the second radical, so instead of that, we reduplicate this third one. So yekomem, yekomam. Theme vowel is different again because we don't have endings. The participle, we see the same thing. We see that nice shava, tells us we have a PL pual or something like it. These are related to those. Mekomem, mekomam. So here we have tsere, which is what we expect. Runs through this polel and the PL counterpart. Here we have the comets, which is just like the pual. Remember that the comets marks the participles of the passive binyanim. So not just pual, but also nifal, and hofal. And here we see it as well in the polal. So these are really obeying the rules quite nicely. Infinitive construct, komeim. Okay, again, you can't double this, but you can that, and so you do, and you have your tzere, theme vowel. I couldn't find an example of this in the Hebrew Bible, so in fact, I think I said in the previous slide, yeah, there's only 12 polals. So it's kind of good sometimes to have a sense of what the frequency is. 12 words. Are you going to memorize that? Probably not, but it's good to know it's here. Okay, what about hitpolel? Obviously, this relates to hitpael. And really, if you take this form, the polel, and you add your hit or whatever your hit, yit, mit thing on the beginning, the prefix, then you pretty much have it. Komeim, hit komeim. Komema. Did I say komma before? This should be komema. This is a long vowel, so this would be open syllable, and this would be a vocalic shva. Komema. Komema. And hit komema. So you just add the hit at the beginning. Komamta. Hit komamta. Yekomeim. Hit yitkomeim. Yekomeim. Yitkomeim. So you just take this part and you add this at the beginning here. Well, in this case, it replaces the y. The y becomes yit. Mikomeim, mitkomeim. Komeim, hitkomeim. Okay, so they're not really that difficult. The main thing is that instead of doubling the second radical, you reduplicate the third. Well, what are my notes? For polel, you have the tzere theme vowel. The theme vowel is what distinguishes these from each other. Well, the first two anyway. So tzere for polel, and you can see the e vowel right there in the name. Polal has patach, just like pual, pl and pual. So these follow. When polel and polal have suffixes, they go to patach, or with verbal suffixes it becomes a shva. In either case, it becomes the same, and your distinction is lost. Okay, so these are the black forms that I talked about. With either vocalic or consonantal suffixes, the distinction is lost because they all you either reduce your theme vowel, or the theme vowel becomes a patach with that second person switch. Now, in terms of translation, they're usually translated as factitives, which is a factitive is it causes the state denoted by the root. Okay, so if you have a word like kom, in the kal it means to rise. In the polel, if it's a factitive, which it is, komeim, it means to raise. So to cause the state, to rise, to cause to rise is to raise. Mut is to die, and to cause that state of death is to kill. Motate. Okay, so factitive. To be high, to cause something to be high is to raise. Now it happens to coincide with this one. To cause to raise or to cause to be high is both to raise. Romeim. Okay, so that's a polel acting as a factitive. Kun, to be established. Well, to cause to be established is to establish. So you have konein. So largely they're translated as factitives, which again is a feature or is a way of translating PL verbs. So there's overlap there as well. Okay, so these ones here, the Polel Polal Hithpolel, there's 3 or 4 other sets of binyanim that are alternatives to this. And what I'm going to do in the next modules that deal with this is I'm going to show the polel, I'm going to use it as the base, and then compare all these other ones to that. Okay, so let's move on to our next one. But this one here, I guess what I'm trying to say is these ones are the most important of these binyanim that replace the PL, PUL, HIPPAL. The other ones are less important. And so we'll compare those ones to these ones here.